warm welcome to Public Global. This is Neelu Vyas. Visuals of Indian nationals being handcuffed and deported to India have rocked the nation. In fact, they have shook the conscience of every Indian. And one has been forced to think that what kind of a government do we have in the country which cannot stand up for the dignity of its individuals? There was ruckus in parliament today. There were protests by the opposition party saying that there should be a detailed statement by the government on as to how the deportation has happened, why the Indian nationals were handcuffed, why the government was not there to receive the Indian nationals. Whereas if you compare it with what happened in Colombia, you had the Colombian president receiving its nationals after they were deported back. So lots of questions there. But just a short while back, we had External Affairs Minister S. Jayshankar giving a statement, and where he said apparently that we are, of course, engaging the US government to ensure the returning deportees are not mistreated in any manner during the flight. And then he also talked about a standard operating procedure for deportation by aircraft provides for the use of restraints. And by restraints, of course, he means those handcuffs. He said that the immigration and customs department actually uses restraints, and we have been informed that women and children were not restrained in any manner. Further, he says that the need of deportees during transit related to food and other necessities, including possible medical emergencies, are attended to. During toilet breaks, deportees are temporarily unrestrained if needed, and this is applicable to chartered civilian aircraft as well as military aircraft. Now, this has not been a very convincing reply as far as S. Jayshankar is concerned. And where does it leave India and America's relations? And is this not the biggest insult for any Indian? And what does Modi have to say on this? But he's all set to meet Donald Trump next week in this month. Joining me now on this issue is international affairs expert Professor Kamal Pasha. So thank you so much for joining on Public Global. My first question to you is that uh, what kind of an import we have after this episode of Indian nationals being handcuffed, the government not speaking about it, Modi completely silent, S. Jayshankar giving an answer which is not convincing enough.
Yeah, this less said the better because this was completely avoidable, and it shows the incompetence of the Minister of External Affairs as a weak-kneed person, and he is justifying the American policy of restraint and handcuffing, and it shows his lack of insight into the issue of the larger implications which is now before the government. The Prime Minister must be shocked at the visuals and the negative social media which his government is taking, and the long-term implications of what has happened. Because the foreign minister should have advised the prime minister not to accept the military plane and in humiliating manner the handcuffed Indians. That may be American policy, but they cannot force on us. Like the Colombian government, a small government, small country with far less capability than India, has shown the United States of America by refusing the military plane and the handcuffed Colombian citizens. By not allowing the military plane, American military plane to land. It was sent back. And what more humiliation the United States can suffer from a small country? But we are a huge country. We claim to be Vishwaguru. We are nuclear power, fourth or fifth largest military. And on top of it, we claim that America is our strategic partner, close ally, largest democracy and biggest democracy and strongest democracy, and people-to-people contacts, so on and so forth. So this kind of wrong message, which the foreign minister's mishandling of the situation has landed the government in soup, and members of parliament and the entire nation is up in arms as to how this was allowed to happen. Like the Colombian government, which is not a very old case. It is just 1 week old. They could have mustered courage, and even if Jayshankar was not capable of taking a decision on this, he should have advised the Prime Minister, look, Prime Minister, this has larger implications on the government, on the country, and its image as an emerging global power, as a leader of the global South. All these will have implications. First of all, he has not understood. He has not bothered to check whether they will be handcuffed, or the embassy has not bothered to check and go and see them off and ask for the papers of their alleged violation of US law. So it shows the lethargic and laid back approach of the embassy and the MEA and the whole chain of command, which is established, spending millions and millions of dollars on their upkeep as embassy and the officials and diplomats. They have not assessed the situation properly, and the political leadership is now in a soup because of this bureaucratic approach.
But does this episode, Professor Pasha, put Modi at his weakest best? I mean, he appears weak willed. He appears as if he doesn't have guts to open his mouth before Donald Trump. And does it bring his image to its lowest level now in the eyes of any ordinary Indian today after this episode has happened?
No, Prime Minister and BJP and NDA's image has taken a beating. There is no doubt about it, because there is no other country which would tolerate this kind of a humiliation, especially because we are not a banana republic. We are not Pakistan. We are not any other small country. I don't want to name them, but a country of India's stature to tolerate this, and then the American propaganda that they are criminals and they are violators. All this, it is in their law, it is in their eyes. But we have to examine from our law point of law and see what has happened and how they landed themselves in trouble. There are many people who have lawfully entered other countries, but for some reason or the other, they land up in jail. We don't treat the Americans or any other nationals in this way if they illegally or otherwise cross the border and they are found violating the rules. This is Trump's trademark policy of challenging other countries and browbeating them and extracting concessions from them. That is a standard policy of what he did against Canada, Mexico, China by threatening sanctions, but then immediately relaxing them and talking to them. And the same policy he did with other issues also. So, as a businessman, as a real estate mogul, he starts with a hard bargain and then compromises. So in that way, we have to show our firmness in dealing, and I'm sure Prime Minister Modi will send the right signal, even if this episode has tarnished his image. Not so much in the eyes of America, but in the eyes of the Indians, particularly because he has uh, claimed that he is respected and admired abroad in so many countries wherever he has visited.
Right. But Professor Pasha, this whole issue about a US military plane landing on the Indian soil, do you see this as a breach of sovereignty? And didn't Modi and as Jayshankar realize that if they allow the US military plane to land on the Indian soil, what will people say? What could be the backlash? Or they just mindlessly allowed the US plane to land on the Indian soil?
I'm sure they knew the American military plane. The Americans announced, they told India, and they gave the list of people, how many men are there, women are there, children are there, and what time they will be leaving, what time they will be landing. All the details were given, and clearance was given by the Airports Authority and the Ministry of Defense, since it was a military plane, civil aviation, all of these things have taken. But this is the kind of same laid back approach, lethargic approach, contempt for our own citizens. Because if the Americans say an Indian national has been arrested for criminal, we take it for granted that whatever they say is holy truth without examining from our point of view. So this is the same kind of bureaucratic approach which has landed, and this shows the dysfunctional nature of the MEA, the embassies, the diplomats, and all the staff which are involved. Because Indians are used to this kind of an approach, which you don't find in other countries, in other embassies and other foreign ministries. They are very sensitive even to one individual of their country.
Right, but Professor Pasha, when handcuffs were being used on the Indian nationals, wasn't the Indian government or the Indian embassy officials in America didn't know about this, and they kept quiet all this while they didn't inform the government, and then it's only after the hue and cry of the social media that they woke up to it.
The embassy was aware. The foreign minister himself is telling the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha that this is ICS standard procedure. What more evidence do you want? He
Hmm.
knows and he accepts that it is American standard procedure. So what? You have the right to say no. You cannot do this to our Indian citizens. We will not accept that. He should have mustered guts and courage to say this. How dare you do this to our Indian citizens, even if you claim they are violators of your law? He is accepting that this is American law, and like a stooge, he is accepting their procedure and reporting to the parliament shamelessly. What more insult can you have from a minister who is hardly, who is contemptuous of his own citizens?
No, but do you think that Modi will raise this issue at all with Donald Trump when he meets?
I don't think so. With what face he will say? Donald Trump will say that we have arrested them. It is your countrymen, and we will do this again. He will say.
No, but then, as Jayshankar said, that we'll ensure that this kind of a mistreatment doesn't happen. And this kind of a statement he's made on the floor of the House. So, what happens if the same treatment is meted out to the Indians again next time when the second batch of passengers arrive?
Now, at least if the Prime Minister pulls him up, he should tighten his belt and organize on a war footing civilian aircraft to bring back all those Indians who have been identified or alleged to have violated the rules. Otherwise, his days are numbered. He should act, put his staff together and pull them up and bring them honorably back, like we have done in the case of Kuwait, Indians from Kuwait or Jordan or Lebanon or Libya or Yemen or Sudan or several other countries we have evacuated. Not in this kind of a humiliating manner. We allow foreigners to send their military aircraft into our sovereign territory. This is, I think, totally unacceptable, totally avoidable, and he is trying to cover up his incompetence by justifying the American laws, which is totally unacceptable. It has no basis for application for our citizen on our. They are bringing our citizens handcuffed in their territory into our territory. Can you imagine more humiliation if India were a dictatorship like China or Egypt or any other country, this would have gone unnoticed. Every Indian now knows this. Every Indian member of parliament knows this kind of humiliation, and this is totally unacceptable. And the government has paid a very heavy price for the incompetence of the foreign minister, who is also advising him on what has happened shamelessly in Bangladesh or Maldives or Sri Lanka with tiny Bhutan, Nepal. He is scared of Donald Trump and America now. That Trump will put tariffs, so we have to welcome this and reduce tariffs, and then downgrade our relationship with BRIC countries and with China and with Russia. and cave into American pressure. This kind of a compromising approach is not good for a country of India's stature, which wants to be Vishwaguru and member of the UN Security Council and play a global role in global politics. This kind of a weak need approach is disastrous for the country.
No, but Professor Pasha, do you think that Modi will ask Jayshankar to resign, or Modi will try and change the foreign minister because he's suffered so much of humiliation because of his bureaucratic approach?
Well, the sooner it happens, the better for the country, because he has no new ideas, because Modi still has 4 years. Uh,
Hmm.
we need a new direction. We need a new vision for our foreign policy. This man has shown his ignorance, his incompetence, and this longer he continues, the burdensome he would become, and he will land us in more problems, because we have narrated you the incidents, whether it is Russia or China or BRICS or Bangladesh or Maldives. We are doing very badly even in our neighborhood. The whole world is laughing. India is such a great country with great history, with great capabilities. Why is it accepting in this kind of a humiliation? Series of setbacks in our neighborhood and in our foreign policy. Everybody is taking for granted. There was a time when everybody was looking for India. Before deciding their foreign policy, they would wait how India would speak, what India would do. Those were the days, glorious days of our foreign policy. We were respected, our prestige was very high. But now it has gone in the mud because of all of these setbacks. The sooner we have a visionary as prime minister and also a good foreign minister, the better for our future. Otherwise, Donald Trump will browbeat us, and we will be nowhere, neither in the BRICS nor with the global south, nor anybody would respect us and listen to our point of view. We will be relegated to the background.
Right. Highly unfortunate what has happened, but we'll have to see whether government of India is able to check on this kind of a mistreatment which has been meted out to the Indians. I'll have to thank you here. Thank you so much, Professor Pasha, for joining on Public Global. Thank you. Thank you, sir.